And we are now officially live on air. We have Gavin, Cueto, and his grandmother, Elaine, who are joining us all the way from Wales. Is that correct?
That's right, yeah. Hello.
Yeah, in Wales. Welcome, welcome. And Gavin, you've got a very interesting story to tell, and I've got lots of questions. And when it comes to interviews like this is where I let my curiosity, obviously, kind of lead the conversation. You are how old? 20 years old, is that correct?
That's right, yeah.
20 years old. So next year or this year, when is the big party?
The 1st of January, 21st birthday.
No ways. That's quite a day to celebrate.
Yeah.
You really pick your moments. I like that. So Gavin, you were born 20 years ago, and to put it in the appropriate terms, you were born male, but you were assigned the female gender, and you were given a female body.
That's right, yeah. Yeah.
Is that the correct way to put it?
Yeah, that's how you could put it.
And so when you were growing up, you always felt different. Can you tell us a little bit about what it was like growing up, and what sort of thoughts were going through your head when society was treating you as a young girl?
Yeah, when I was younger, I always felt more of a tomboy than a girly girl. I was always the tomboy of the group of girls that I hung around with. I always bothered with my older cousin, which is male, and we always used to play like with the animals and like cars and stuff. So I was always like, I got an older brother as well, so like we was always close, and I was always around boys mainly, like, but most of my friends were girls. Like with clothes and stuff as well. Like I didn't like wearing dresses and skirts and like dolly shoes. It would always be jumpers, trousers, and trainers. So it was always like a big tomboy, like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's nothing unusual about that. You have many young girls who dress up like boys, who play boys sports, and even now there are huge debates whether you could even say that, for example, playing with animals is considered a boy or a girl activity, because at the end of the day, activities are activities for young girls and boys to play.
Yeah.
So that part doesn't surprise me or make your story any more confusing or less confusing. But you got to a point where you're now 10 or 11 years old, and at school, they decide to do a presentation on puberty.
Yeah.
Now, I must just tell you, as a parent and as an educator, I find it quite silly that schools teach about puberty at 11 years old when kids are starting to go through puberty at 9 or 10, and they wait for the process to happen, and then they start revealing what's going on. I think they should definitely start that sort of information earlier, but that's neither here nor there. So you go and they start presenting on puberty, and something switches on in your brain. What happened?
They was telling us about, like, obviously I was with all the girls in the girls class when we was talking about women puberty, and they're talking about, like, obviously periods and like your chest growing, and I just felt so uncomfortable. Like I just felt so wrong sitting in there, like with all the girls. Like everyone was looking forward to it, bar me. Like I didn't want any of it. Like, you know.
And I mean, obviously, they still to this day feel that they need to obviously separate boys and girls because the one should know information that the other one shouldn't know. I don't understand that either. But okay, so you felt very uncomfortable, which is maybe just a maturity thing. Maybe it's, and I'm just playing devil's advocate here, that maybe you watched this interview and you thought, in this presentation, you thought, you know, this kind of stuff, I'm not ready for it just yet. But it made you uncomfortable to a point where you started questioning yourself and your gender identity. Is that correct?
That's right, yeah.
So what sort of questions did you ask yourself at 11 years old?
But like, I never liked change. I knew like puberty was coming, and I didn't want any of it. Like from a young age, I've said I've never wanted children. I've never wanted to have children. Like everything just sort of felt wrong. What was supposed to happen to me, like with puberty and like having kids, like the sort of womanly role. I always knew that that would never be me. You know, I always felt like
Okay,
that.
but I mean, so those are your aspirations. You feel that maybe that will never be me, but at the end of the day, how does that translate into you feeling, wait a second, it's not me because I'm actually a male trapped in a female body? When did you get to that realization?
When I was about 14, when I saw someone that was transgender. I first heard about transgender for the first time on a TV program. And then I learned a lot about it then and what it was, and it just ticked every single box. And I was just like, wow, this is a real thing. And I was like, this is me. It was like an eye opener. Like I found what was wrong with me then, you know?
But now, growing up, before you got to 14 and realized that these were the boxes that needed to be ticked, and now you actually have a name for what is going on in your head, you must be presenting as you said, the tomboy. How were your friends handling it at the time?
They just see me for me. Like obviously I was a tomboy. I've been a tomboy all my life. So they saw me, that was just me in their eyes. But like when I come out, they weren't really surprised. You know, it wasn't a big shock to them. They was just like, we always knew, sort of thing.
But now that's interesting. So maybe they could have said when you came out that maybe you were gay, that they wouldn't have been surprised. But transgender is very different.
Some of them
to being gay.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, some of them did. Like obviously, when I was sort of coming out and I got to the stage where I got something to tell you. Like a majority of them thought that I was going to say that I was a lesbian, that I was gay.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously,
and then you go, and it's not because I'm a lesbian, it's because I'm trans. And they were like, wow, you floored us there. That we were not expecting that.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
and who do you tell first? Your friends, because they are the sounding boards, and if you lose a friend, it's not the same as losing a family member, or do you tell your parents, or do you tell your grandmother?
Nana was the first person that I ever told. Then I told my cousin that I used to bother with. He's got like 6 months between us, so he's older. I told him. I told another cousin then, and she was really accepting of me, and she was always there for me through my dark times as well. Then I went to my friends. Then I started telling my friends sort of like one by one, my close friends who I've grown up with all my life, you know, I've always been close with them. And then it was my family then, my mum's turn to find out.
So I'm just trying to think, what was the thought process going on in your mind in terms of the hierarchy, in terms of who do I tell first, so that by the time I get to the end, I haven't upset anyone because I told this one before this one. Because, you know, some people, the fact that they accept it is one thing, but the fact they were told third, that's a problem. Yeah. Can you imagine someone being upset with you because you told them third, not because of the actual news that you told them, but they were told third? I mean, did you have that kind of a situation?
Yeah, a few people were like, why didn't you tell me? You know, you could have told me. And I'm like, at the time, it's a massive subject, isn't it? And I didn't know what everyone was going to say. So, like, I told Nana because I always knew deep down that she would be fine with it. So that's why I knew I could go to her. The same with my other two cousins. I knew, like, they would be great with it. So I knew they'd be accepting and supportive. So that's why I turned to them. And then, like I said, you know, with my mum and my dad, my family, they've never had to deal with it before, like someone being trans, and they've never understood it properly. So I didn't know what their thought process would be about this. So that's why they were sort of like the last ones to find out, but you know.
So then you are almost like a trailblazer, because not only in your family, I'm sure you probably live in a very small community.
Yeah.
And when you come along and you make an announcement that you are transgendered, I can't imagine there's a long line of other people going, hey, those are the boxes that need to be ticked for me as well. I mean, are you, as they say in Little Britain, if you've ever seen David, you know, are you the only transgender in the village?
Yeah. Pretty much, yeah.
So that means that you are now, you know, a source of knowledge. People come to you because, you know, you are going through something that people can't always relate to. It's not an easy concept to relate to. You know, people might say, oh, well, I suppose if on a bad day or a good day, I could be the other gender, but it's not that at all. I mean, you were repulsed with the fact that you were given a girl's body. Yeah. And in your mind, you always thought that you were a boy.
Yeah, that's correct.
That never changed.
No.
Wow. So how did you break the...
Deep down, you know, in your heart, you know, if you're transgender, you know, there's no like going back. Then you definitely know, like.
How does it impact you emotionally, knowing that you have this information that you now want to share with the world? You don't know how to present it. You don't know who to present it to. You don't know how they're going to react. How is it impacting you? Because obviously you might have a girl's body, but you also have hormones raging through your head as well. And did that impact in your emotional well-being at the time?
At the time of me coming out?
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. Like, you know, obviously I'd gone through puberty and I was going through puberty at the time I was coming out. So I was everywhere. Like I was in a really dark place for the first few years of my teenage years, definitely. Like I just locked myself away. I didn't know how to deal with it. Like I turned to self-harming and like I was going through depression as well. So I wasn't in a good place, like, you know. But like I just sort of just tried my best to get through it. I just muddled through it.
So in that dark place that you were in, the turnaround came when you saw the presentation about being transgendered, and then you realized, hold on, I see a connection between the two. Was that like emancipation? Was that like a big bright light that helped you through? Or do you think that maybe just going through all that hardship, you were willing to tag onto anything that could make it feel a bit better?
Yeah, but like obviously after I learned what transgender was and meant, I still felt like obviously I didn't know whether my family was going to accept me for who I was. So I was still going through depression and the sort of rejecting feeling, like, you know, like I wasn't going to be accepted for who I was. So that was another thing on there as well. Like, you know, that was like me previous, like I didn't know what was wrong with me. And then obviously I watched that and like I discovered who I was. And then that was another thing, like I didn't know what my family would say. So that was another thing I had to deal with as well, if I was going to be rejected or not by my family.
But then of course you decided to approach your nan, and we have Nanny Lane there. How did you tell your gran how did you come out to your gran?
I came out to Nana when I was 11 and she came home from Skittles one night and I basically had enough. Like I couldn't keep it into myself anymore. I had to tell someone. And like I said, I knew I could tell Nana. So I went to Nana and I said, Nan, I feel like a boy. And you said?
I said, well, I didn't understand, you know, did I? I thought he was just...
phase.
Yeah, like a phase he was going through, because, you know, they do, don't they? Want to be a tomboy and all this. But it wasn't right, and you got up, didn't you? Went downstairs and he was crying. And I went down and I thought, what's the matter? Like, you know, because I didn't understand what he really meant. And I knew he was crying and I gave him a kiss and a hug and I went back to bed then. Because I didn't think, just thought it was just a phase he was going through, didn't I? Yeah.
Now that's fascinating. So when he told you, and you obviously realized that he was definitely very upset and emotional about it, you just kind of said, well, okay, that's fine. And then you went off to bed. Did you take in the thought of what it was that he was actually presenting to you? Or did you
I
just say,
think, you know,
maybe he's just tired and it'll be a phase and he'll be fine tomorrow?
yeah. Yeah, but we always knew there was something different about him from young age. He wouldn't dress up.
Now that's
like he was-
interesting. It's interesting that you say that, because I know that your mom was going to join us as well. You know, as a parent, sometimes the dots are right in front of you and you just don't see them at all because they're your children and you have aspirations for them and you want them to do something in their life that you are holding in high regard, but that might not be them. And of course, the dots are there. And if you actually put all the dots together, you go, wait a second, why didn't we see this earlier? I mean, in retrospect, you probably see all the dots loud and clear. But at the time, you pick up a few odd dots every now and again and go, that didn't fit the pattern. That maybe it's just a phase he's going through. I don't know. I can see that there was a question, did any of your friends or relatives start behaving differently when they came to know that you are transgendered? So that was from, I think that was from
None of my friends, like since I've come out, I haven't lost any friends. Just a few from like other situations, but nothing regarding me being trans. Like everyone that I was with back then is still with me now. I haven't lost no one. Everyone's still supportive and by my side. So I'm really.
Do you reckon it's because you live in such a small village, they're scared to lose one person in their village? How many people live in your village?
It's not a village, it's an estate. So, how many people reckon live
there? Okay, so it's an estate.
Yeah, there's a couple of hundred people here.
In my head, I can't get it out.
Yeah.
so I mean, you go to school, you go to primary school, and then you obviously go to high school. But now in high school, this is where the transition is taking place. Is that correct?
Well,
the mental
last year of high school. Oh yeah.
But so obviously now you are surfing the internet like crazy to find out as much as you can about being transgender. Were there any particular people or role models that you looked up to that helped you or guided you through this process?
There's loads. I can't even mention. There's so many. Like I turned to YouTube for trans guys that are documenting their transitions. So like obviously they would talk about when before they started hormones and before they had surgery, like how they sort of dealt with their depression, the coming out, how they came out. And you know, I learned a lot from that as well, which I could relate to. So that was a massive comfort to me. So obviously now it helped me get through my dark times. So that's why I'm making my videos now, so it can help others as well as documenting my transition, of course, yeah.
But now there's been no physical transition while you were at high school. Is that correct?
What was that? Sorry?
There was no physical transitions while you were at high school.
The only physical transition I've done in high school was that I had my hair cut short. That was it.
Interesting. And that obviously, did that affect the way teachers treated you? Or were everyone absolutely fine? Because at that point, did they know what you were going through?
No, I wouldn't say they knew what I was going through, and I didn't receive no hate or anything from teachers or other people. It was just a shock because I had long hair and I always had it tied back, so I looked really different with short hair. So it was just a massive change. Like people were just like, you know, there was a few eyebrows raised, like, you know, like what? They thought I was a lesbian or I'd come out as a lesbian, and they didn't know that I was trans because I hadn't come out properly, like.
Did you see that coming out as lesbian was a stepping stone, or did you just go straight to letting your friends know that you were trans?
Yeah, straight to telling my friends I was trans.
Now, of course, if it was new to you, out in your school environment there, it must be very new to all your friends as well. So when you come along and say, oh, by the way, I'm trans, they're thinking, oh boy, he turns into a robot and he can move into a vehicle. I've seen that movie. But they had no idea what you were talking about.
No, like, I'd only came out properly to just to my friends within the last year of high school, say like the last 6 months. Like I hadn't changed my name then. I was still going by my birth name. So they wasn't saying he, they were saying she. But like they still accepted, you know, what I wanted to go through, and they like that I was trans. They were still brilliant with it. Like, yeah.
Now, I don't know about the UK, but in South Africa, we have our final year grade 12 dance. And did you have a final dance, and was that complicated?
Yeah, funny enough, it's called a prom over here. So it's going to be the Leavers prom. I was in two minds whether to go or not, because I had just come out then. I had just sort of told that everyone knew that I was trans, and I didn't know whether to go. I wanted to go, but it's like people are going to expect me to go and wear a dress when really I want to be lined up with the boys wearing a suit. And like, what are people going to say? So I decided not to go. So I lost out on a good day there, which I regret. I should have went, like, you know, but I didn't have the confidence back then.
Sad.
Yeah.
But and it's interesting that you talk about confidence. But before I go on to that, Jen in the US says that the librarian in me wonders if you've read The Symptoms of Being Human. It's an amazing young adult book about transgender teen.
Oh no, I haven't read that book. No.
No. Okay, I'll send you the details so at least you can find out. Thank you, Jen, for that recommendation.
Yeah. Thank you.
I mean, first of all, I do think that your friends need to throw you a prom, and I'm very sad that it's taken them this long to even. I mean, the fact that I have to suggest it is just throw those friends away. You need better friends.
Should we mix it in with my 21st birthday?
That's what you should do. For your 21st birthday, the theme should be the prom that I never went to.
That's a great idea. Yeah.
I think that is so cool. And then you can kill two birds with one stone. But now, and she says that Jeff Gavin is the author, but I'll send it to you. And she also suggested the virtual prom. So definitely you're gonna have to stream your 21st live. But just keep an eye on Nan in the corner there, because you know she might steal a few gin and tonics. Only kidding, Nan. So now I'm wondering, you've come out as transgendered, but there's no physical manifestation, just the haircut.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Your voice is definitely not going to sound as deep as it does now.
I always had a low voice.
Did you?
In school, not as low as this now, but it was, for a girl, it was pretty low. Yeah.
Okay, so then obviously you decided, now I'm at an age where I can make decisions for myself. I would like to further my transition a little bit along the way. What was the next step for you?
I went to my GP, so to my doctors, and I was her first sort of transgender case. She'd never met no one that's trans before, so that was a bit ironic, I get. But
you were the only one in the village. I mean, can you imagine? So for the doctor,
I was the only patient
this is
that
a new
was
thing.
trans. Yeah. But she transferred me then to a mental health hospital, because obviously I'd been self-harming and I was going through depression, so I needed counselling in her eyes. So she forwarded me onto a mental health team then, and I underwent counselling. And
was the counsellor very accepting of the fact that you were actually trans, or was she more concerned about the fact that you were self-harming and focusing on those issues?
It was good, because like I got a lot out of my system, and I also learned a lot as well, because my mum came with me, and it sort of, he turned it around onto her perspective as well. Like you said, when you know, like there was like sort of bullet points, like you realise, you know, they were signs like that I was trans, but obviously didn't think back at the time, because you know I was just a tomboy in everyone's eyes. So he was like sort of talking to my mum, and it was like her sort of recollection of my life, like, and how I've been, as a young girl. This was a massive tomboy, you know.
But I mean, look, let's be honest, in Wales, there's not much to do but play soccer. So I'm sure all girls play soccer and come across as tomboys per se. But I mean, you must have had a situation now where your parents are starting to put two and two together. You've come out, and now they're going through that process of adopting the idea that actually this is the new reality.
Yeah.
How easy was that for your parents to take on that role?
It wasn't easy at all. Like, obviously they understood, like, you know, that I was trans, but then it's the stuff that comes with it. So it's the name change, it's the pronoun change. That's what took them the longest. Like, my name, I'd say they got used to my name first rather than when they got used to my pronouns. Like, my dad still struggles, and there's like the odd slip up now and again, like there is with Nana. Nana's the same, but like everyone's fluent with my name now, so that's good. But yeah, it definitely took longer for the pronouns to get used to than
how important is a name? And when you choose a name, do you have to really put a lot of thought into that particular name?
I wanted something simple and easy for people to get used to. So I opted for something that was sort of similar to my birth name. So me and Nana was discussing it one day. Like, I discussed it with my mum, and now I discussed it with Nana. And she said, what about Gavin? And it just sort of stuck, didn't it?
Yeah.
And she was like, Gavin's a nice name. So
what a man is for. That is amazing. And I think also Gavin is a nice short name, and it, if I can say it's masculine, Gavin's Gavin. It's not one of those androgynous names where it could be Adrian, where you're not sure if it's male or female, or Leslie.
Yeah.
You get a lot of men and women who are Leslie. Gavin is definitely, I don't know too many women that are called Gavin. And
no, me.
no. But then you only live in the village of Wales, so I will be teasing you. Don't worry for the rest of this interview. So now, of course, you've decided that this is who you are. People around you have come to terms with it. They are pretty much getting the prepositions right. They've got the name right. This must have changed you as a person, because I can only imagine that someone who goes through the psychological torment of not knowing where they are, that obviously affects self-esteem and your confidence levels. But when you emancipate yourself, you probably went through this whole, I don't know, a lot more came out than just your gender. Would that be a correct assessment?
What's that? Sorry, you didn't come through the last bit.
Sorry. Would it be a correct assessment to say that a lot more came out than just your gender? From a confidence level point of view, from a self-esteem point of view, would that be correct in saying so?
Yeah, definitely. Like, my confidence have improved massively over the years. Yeah, and self-esteem. Like, I've never been 100% confident with how I look or how I am, but it's definitely improved since coming out and being more myself. Like, yeah.
Okay, and then of course your next step was to chat to the doctors about hormone therapy. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah.
And how important is hormone therapy to you?
Hormone therapy was massive to me. Like, I wanted it for years. Since I found out about it, I wanted it. So I was like 14. Since the age of 14, I wanted it. So I longed for it because I knew it was just going to change my life massively and just make me feel more comfortable with myself and more at ease. So, like, it's changed me.
What do the hormones do that would make such a difference for you?
They make you more masculine. Like, they give you facial hair, body hair. It deepens your voice. Gives you big muscles, easier to gain muscle and all. And it makes you feel more comfortable with yourself.
Do you think that when you took those hormones, that affected your self-esteem and made you more confident?
Oh yeah, because I felt more masculine then. Like, obviously I'm getting facial hair, my voice is deepening, I'm feeling more confident within myself. Definitely. Since I started taking hormones, my confidence has gone really high. Yeah.
are you looking back and thinking, oh, now I have to shave? Man, you know, you can't win it all. I mean, do you go through that at all? Are there any things that you think about now and you think to yourself, you know, I wanted it, but can I just leave certain bits out of the package?
There was, like, before I started, there was a few things before I started, but obviously I'm used to it now and it's fine, like, yeah.
That is amazing. So now, Nan, I mean, you've been watching Gavin transition. Obviously, now he's been on the hormone therapy. Who pays for the hormone therapy? Is it covered by government?
Yeah, I was funded by the government, so it's on the NHS now, so I get it for free.
Well, you're very lucky because, you know, not everyone around the world gets access to the same kind of healthcare. And I know my American friends are probably sitting there batting their eyelids now with the new precedent that's going on there. And of course, even in South Africa, you know, it's not always easy for people on national health. In fact, I don't think there's any support for trans people. They have to go to get it privately, and that certainly can't be cheap.
No.
So would it be fair to say that if you were not on national health or you were not able to access national health, that poverty could be a stumbling block to a trans person?
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. If you have to go private and pay for everything, and you're, well, like you said, you know, you're poor, you can't afford it, then yeah, that's a proper curve, like.
And then does that mean you're going to be on hormones for the rest of your life?
Yeah, I'll be on them for the rest of my life now. Yeah.
And you obviously you've thought about that and thought, well, these are the small little things that we do in life to make sure that I'm reaching all the objectives that I have, which I think is important.
Yeah.
But now, of course, you've got mates who were at school with you from primary school up to high school. How are they dealing with it now that you've finished school? Do you feel, obviously you've said that they've been accepting, but have they kind of just moved on, or do you still have mates that you've been friends with for years and years and years?
I mean, I don't speak to everyone from high school and primary school, but you know, you're always in like one another's lives, and you know, everyone got their own life. Everyone's busy. You just get on with it, like it's life. But like, there's close friends that I've had for years, and I know that they'll always be with me. Like, so I've made great friends. Like I said, you know, the people that were accepting have stayed with me. So, you know, I'm really appreciative of that. Really love
that. Is very cool. And Nan, I mean, you've seen the whole family over the last couple of years. What is your take on how the family has handled the transition from this point, from when he first came to you to the point where he is at the moment?
Oh, they've all very supportive, all my family. I got 20 grandchildren, and they're all new.
20 grandchildren?
Yeah. And they're all.
You're allowed 2 pints for that. and of course, Gavin is the most well-behaved one. Is that correct?
Yeah.
I'm just checking. Just you better take notes of that one. I think it's fantastic that of course you're very close to your Nan, because not everyone gets that opportunity. So when you started making videos about, you know, coming out and transitioning, you obviously involved your Nan, and you put it on YouTube, and then what happened?
We made the video of the question and answer video, me and Nana. We done it, I think it was like the middle of December last year, and I just put it up on YouTube like I do my every other video, you know, it's still on YouTube. And a few weeks ago, I got contacted by, I was working with a campaign called Fixers UK, and they basically give young people a voice, so like raising awareness like on different topics. And obviously mine was sharing my story about being trans. They put it into, there's a newspaper over here in the UK called The Mirror, and they put it onto their website, my story, and they put the link to mine and Nana's video on there. And ever since, it's just sort of blew up. It's just everywhere. It's escalated. Yeah, it's just everywhere. It's crazy.
Got a book coming out.
So I mean, how many views have you had?
I think it's over 5 million now.
So does that make you an internet sensation? Because I'm sure you could charge for advertising. I'm sure, are you a partner with YouTube? Because, you know, you get people who get that kind of viewership can actually sign up for the program where they put adverts on next to your video and you generate income.
Yeah.
But if you haven't done that, you should definitely be doing that.
It's like hit over 5 million views, but it's on Facebook where it's been shared by big pages with big followings, not just on YouTube. On my YouTube, I think it's on like 85,000 views or something like that. So it's more on Facebook than it is. Yeah.
And how important is it to you to now share your story with people? I mean, let's be honest. You go through a difficult time, and then all of a sudden, you start to see the light, and now you just want to share the light with everyone. Why on earth would you go ahead and do that? Because
you don't know who you're helping. You could be helping someone like that's got no family, or that's been rejected by their family, like because they come out as trans. You know, you could be helping anyone. Like you're helping other people that don't know a lot about it. You're helping them, educating them, and so they can learn what it is and how it is to be trans. You're helping all sorts. A lot of people are afraid to come out. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think it's obviously very brave because, first of all, it's a very personal topic. It's not, you're not talking about a hairstyle or a piece of jewelry. I mean, you're talking about your gender, your being, the anguish that you've been through. But of course, your journey is still ongoing. Are you planning anything in the future? To any specific physical changes that you're planning, or you happy where you are at the moment?
Not at the moment, no. I'm waiting for top surgery now, so chest surgery. I'll hopefully be having that early next year, and then obviously a few years down the line, then I'll undergo bottom surgery.
And how important is that to you?
Well, both surgeries.
Well, yeah, I mean, the top surgery is obviously less complicated and quite common. But, I mean, the bottom surgery is obviously a little bit more complicated and risky.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Well, at the moment, I don't think results are very good with bottom surgery anyway. So by the time it's my turn to have it done, hopefully things will have been improved by then. But like at the moment, my main concern is top surgery. That's my priority.
Yeah.
So.
And when you were growing up, were you interested in boys or were you interested in girls or both?
Girls, yeah. Always been girls.
Always been girls. So then your friends never thought of you as gay, and when you were coming out, they thought, oh, we know exactly what you're going to say. We always suspected that you like girls, so you must be gay. But that wasn't the case at all.
No, when I came out, like, a few people said, like, I thought you was going to tell me you was a lesbian. And then it's like, no, I'm trans. And they're like, oh, like, it's a different thing, and it's totally different. Like, like
so what is it? So, I mean, does it complicate things?
It does, because people didn't know what it was and didn't know a lot about it.
And so now, obviously, you are now living your authentic self, which is, something that you've been doing now for about a couple of years?
3 years now, yeah.
3 years now. And now you're obviously making an identity for yourself. Your confidence has grown. Your community has accepted you. You tell Nan she can answer the phone. That's what we love about live interviews. It's the press. They heard about this interview and they just need to ask a couple of questions.
They're pulling up outside now.
So I mean, I'm always intrigued when someone shares a life story like this, and it's a big deal. That obviously it will impact on some people. Some people are saying, "Oh no, what you're doing is you're poisoning the youth. You're telling every single child who's a tomboy that they're going to be transgendered." Why is there such a big difference between just growing up as a tomboy and being transgendered?
No, it's not the case with that. Like it's like I said, you know deep down if you're trans, you know in your heart that you are. So I'm not trying to push people into anything. I'm just sharing my story so other people like me are not alone. They don't feel alone. That's all I'm doing. I'm not telling people how to live their lives. I don't know why people are saying that.
No,
But
I'm not saying. I'm just saying.
out there.
I'm playing devil's advocate. But now, if, for example, there was a transgendered teen or young kid, what sort of support services are out there for children of that age?
For young children, I don't think there's not a lot out there, like support groups. Like it's mostly adult ones, I think.
Well, I mean, the parents need to know.
No.
Parents need to know, what are all the check boxes so that they can start putting all the dots together. And kids, they obviously don't know what is going on. So at some point, there must be some sort of conduit or communication where they can connect with something or somebody or a group to learn more about what's going on.
Yeah, it would be good if we had more of those. So obviously people can relate to one another. That's why I done the video with me and my mum. So like people that are watching it with their family, like obviously their mum and dad can relate to my mum. Like they sort of going through the same thing, so that's why I did that one.
Do you connect with other trans people?
Yeah, loads. Like especially since like I put my videos on YouTube, like I've had loads of messages from people all over the world, and since our videos gone viral as well, like people all in different situations. Like some people are waiting to undergo top surgery. Some people haven't even come out to their families, and they're asking me like, what's the best way to come out? So I just gotta be like, just like what I did. I made sure that I would have a place to go if my parents wasn't accepted. So that's why I turned to Nan. So I just say to them, just make sure you've got a place to stay, place to go, in case anything goes wrong. That's the only advice I can give them because I don't know these people. They've just randomly messaged me. I don't know who they are.
Wow.
I don't know how their family are. So that's the only advice I can give really.
I reckon that you should start an interview series where you interview other trans people to make a resource, obviously, for people. I mean, I was hopefully going to interview Jazz. I don't know if you know Jazz at all.
Jazz Jennings.
Yeah, and
Oh, amazing.
Just timing was very, very difficult. But young people like that, obviously they feature a lot of YouTube videos.
Yeah.
Recently there was one, well, not recently, but about a year ago, there was a young girl whose parents gave her as a birthday gift the hormone treatments that she was after.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously it was very emotional. But then I just learned today that her mother has just come out as trans as well.
Oh my God.
So that's very interesting. I've never known of two transgender within the same family.
Yeah. God. It's mad.
I'll send you the links. You see, and that's what I love about this process. It's always about learning. And so in your village, are you going to be setting up your online resources, maybe articles and things that parents can go and read to find out if there are certain check boxes they should be looking at?
Who knows what the future holds? Maybe. Like I've been talking with a magazine that comes out this month, end of this month, so we'll be in that. Like obviously I'm still doing my YouTube videos and posting online, so I don't know, maybe it's possible in the future.
So does Gavin have his own brand? Do you have your own website where you load all your video? Maybe that's your next step. I think you should definitely have that, and possibly even put on a form where people can apply to pay you to come and do speaking engagements, which is also quite useful. You can earn good money doing that. So we'll chat offline about that, because I think that, when you have information and you've been through quite a lot, which is an understatement, you could obviously help a lot of people who would definitely not want to go through what you've been through. I mean, if you had to go through it all again, would you do it again?
I would, but I would come out sooner than I did. That's my biggest regret. But obviously I didn't know what the outcome would be at the time.
So obviously in retrospect, it was much easier.
Yeah.
Wow. So let me find out if any of our guests, I've got Govinda in Nepal, and I've got Jen and Tony in the US. Do you guys have any questions you want to ask Gavin or his nan? We'll just see if they've got anything. You can just unmute yourself if you want to ask a question, or you could type a question in the chat, and I'll gladly read it out for you. So now obviously you've got plans. What does Gavin do at the moment? Are you Gavin international mystery superstar, or what do you do at the moment?
I work for a company called Next. It's a clothes store. I'm in the stockroom in the warehouse.
So does that mean you get access to men's fashion quicker than anyone else?
Yeah, as we're processing it from when it's coming off the lorry before it hits the shop floor, yeah.
That's very cool. I see Tony. Tony wants to ask a question. Tony, fire away.
Hey, I'm also another librarian from Colorado, so Jen and I are kind of neighbors. But I read the book Rethinking Normal, a memoir in transition. It was about a girl born a boy, and it was really, really an informative book. And I'm just wondering if there's anything that you've read, you know, that's more accessible for teens who might be going through something like this. I've read a couple other ones, but I just don't know if there's a lot out there that can expose kids to, like, this isn't that different. This, you know, this is normal.
That's a good question. Do you have any recommendations of books or things that you read?
Articles?
I haven't read no books, funny enough. It's mostly been like programs on the TV or something, like, or films, or just like YouTube videos. I've never actually read like magazines and stuff, or a book regarding like being trans and what it's like to be trans.
You've gone through it, so you probably don't need to, right? But yeah, just think,
definitely.
If you were exposed to that at an early age, it'd just be interesting if your journey would have been any different, to see that there's other kids. And again, just being in a library and wanting kids to be exposed to all different literature, different cultures, different everything, just getting a lot of diversity in our books, I think is going to be helpful in the future for kids to recognize signs in themselves or in friends, and being able to be open to that.
That's actually very interesting. So, I mean, would you, for example, put all the dots together with a student that walks to the library and go, I think I'm going to have to recommend this particular book to this particular student because there's a good chance, mathematically speaking, that this child is probably going through the same thing that Gavin went through. I mean, do you ever get a situation like that?
We have a diversity day, and we do have a transgender student here who the faculty knew about, and he came and talked to me, and I happen to have a diversity display up. And so I asked if he had read some of the books that I thought he would be interested in, and he checked them out and loved them. So it wasn't a direct thing. It was a little more casual, but I felt like he's a senior, and this happened last year, and it was the first time I think that he had checked out a book from the library. So it kind of made me feel good that there were things in here that might be of interest to him. And again, just having the display there that, you know, I don't know if I would say, if I wasn't talking to someone about the issues that they might be going through, maybe I wouldn't have said that, but it was on display, and he saw it, and we started talking about it, and it worked out well.
I think that is amazing. So there we go. There's an idea for you that, Gavin, you're going to have to start Diversity Day in your village, and you're going to have to...
my village.
Right, you must go speak to the local library, and maybe they want to feature a couple of books, and then you could come along and speak to the kids, and then the kids could actually take out the books in the library, because, you know, I think that if you had accessed some of those books when you were much younger, you know, you might have read Judy Blume, or you might have read Enid Blyton, and I don't know what you might have read back in the day, but, you know, if you had read something about being transgendered, that might have also helped you along your process.
Yeah, definitely. Who knows? I might be able to do my own book one day. Who knows?
Well, there we go. So maybe that's what you need to do. How about starting a guide, a very simple guide where people ask you questions, and you document the answers and you put it together in a frequently asked questions booklet on the kinds of things. And then also you include parents and you include grandparents and friends as well on how they handled, you know, some of these topics. And I think that that would be a very interesting resource for people to actually access.
Yeah.
That's a great, Tony, thank you very much for that input. Jen, do you have anything you want to ask?
Oh, not really ask. I just typed a note. I'm in a middle school library, and I kind of push the line on the content that may or may not be appropriate for kids, because I feel strongly, I think it was Judy Bloom who said the right book for the right kid at the right time. And I haven't necessarily had, like Tony said, a direct, here, you should read this because of that, with anyone who I know to be trans, but I definitely have those books available. But what I'm getting at is YouTubers' books that they've written are a really hot item right now in my middle school. So I think you would have great success if you went that route, for sure.
Yeah.
So there we go. You're going to have to quit at your current job, and you're going to be making a fortune selling
self-guided
books. That is amazing. So you obviously have a sibling, your older brother, and you said that your older brother was quite accepting of it. But in an earlier interview that I watched with your mom did say at the beginning that at the beginning stages she mourned the loss of her daughter. But obviously she was quite happy to gain another, but she did mourn the loss of. Do you think she ever got over the fact that her daughter is no longer around?
I don't think she'll ever get over it, because, like, inside, you know, obviously she had one girl and one boy, and that's what she said. It's like that daughter have died now, so she's got 2 sons. So it's always going to be with her, because it was a child that she had. So it is, isn't it? It's always going to be with her.
Okay, and Jen has to run, so we'll see you, Jen. Thanks for joining us. The other thing I wanted to know was the bathroom issue. That seems to be such a big deal around the world. Do you have any issues with that at all? Or I mean, at school, that obviously wasn't an issue, because at the time you were just going to the girls' bathroom.
The first few years of high school, I used the women's bathroom. But then, like, as I was getting older, I avoided going to the toilet if I could, so I didn't even go, because I wouldn't know when to go in, especially when I had my hair cut short as well. So I just avoided it at all costs. Like, yeah.
That's a long time to hold it in.
I know.
I mean, and now, what happens at work?
Pardon? What was that?
What happens at work?
At work? Oh, at work is, since working where I am now, it's changed my life massively. Like, I was on hormones. No, I started working there when I was about 3 or 4 months before I started taking hormones. And everyone knew me as Gavin. Everyone knew that I was trans anyway, so that was sort of a big help. I didn't have to connect to anyone. They're all really friendly and loving. They're like a family down there. But like I use the bathroom of choice. I use the men's room, where I do everywhere.
Absolutely, and I mean, I think most bathrooms around the world are now starting to obviously build in individual stalls, so it shouldn't even be an issue with regards to. In fact, they're making most of the bathrooms unisex, so that both men and women can use the bathroom. Obviously, the urinals are a little bit more complicated, but if you have individual stalls, then that shouldn't be an issue at all. Is there any advice that you would give, first of all, young kids? When I say young kids, and I don't mean advice, I'm saying if there are any questions, now I have to phrase this correctly. Are there any check boxes that you think you should raise for a young teen to consider? The check boxes that definitely rung out for you. and for the parents to look out for?
When I was a teen, the tick boxes for me were definitely, like I said, with puberty, I knew it was coming and I did not want it at all. Like the thought of it just horrified me. That was one of the big tick boxes for me. Parents, I can't really comment on that one because I'm not a parent, but you might be able to, like, any tick boxes, like, for
Same. How you felt like,
just always be honest, like,
Oh yeah.
just always be honest, like, with
tell people what you feel, isn't it? And so they can understand, isn't it? And they can help you as well.
Yeah.
So obviously being able to communicate is important.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I mean, and who would you recommend that people speak to if they have any questions about their gender, if there isn't a gender identity issue? Who would you recommend they go and speak to?
Someone they feel close to, someone that they know is LGBT plus friendly, that understands a lot of stuff that goes on in that community, or even people like myself, like on YouTube, people online that have gone through or are going through that journey, that can help them and give advice, any questions asked.
So that's amazing. So on your new website, which you're about to launch quite soon, which we'll chat about, there will obviously be an opportunity for people to ask questions. And I think that would be quite helpful, because then your mom could jump in and answer all the parent questions, and Nan could jump in and answer the grandparent questions. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
Happy.
Well, don't we all want that?
Exactly, yeah. With a beard, I hope, so I don't look young anymore, so I don't have to get ID'd all the time, proof of age.
But isn't that a good thing, that you have a young-looking face?
Yes.
No one would want to go out for a drink with your mates, it's not. Let me tell you.
What happens with identity documents? Because obviously, if you have transitioned, your identity documents might not have transitioned.
No, you have to change them yourself. Have
you done all of that?
Everything's done. Yeah. Every single thing is done. My passport, my
that is amazing.
My doctors, everything, except for my birth certificate. That's the only thing I've got to change. That's last on the list. And that's what I got to do.
And your country doesn't have an issue with that, because I know in South Africa we did an interview with a transgender doctor, and she was saying that she would go to Home Affairs, which is the place where you go and register all your documentation, and they took something like, I don't know, 18 months, almost 2 years to process, an ID document.
Oh my God.
and that's obviously because there's certain stereotypes and certain issues and, ridiculous things that, hurdles they put in people's way, that they just say, look, fine, I'm not going to do it. But then the problem is that you have to walk around with your old identity and your new identity, and the two don't always mix, and that can cause complications. If you go to a pub with your mates and you show your ID card and they go, hold on, what's the story here? I mean, do you ever have to explain yourself?
Yeah. Do you know what, that actually happened to me on my 18th birthday, because over here you've got to be 18 to legally drink. So I had an 18th birthday party and we all went into town.
I like the way you say legally drink, because
so
we know what's going on there.
We all went into town afterwards, and my brother came, and I had my passport from when I was a child. So obviously on my photograph, it's a girl with long hair on there. So my 18th birthday, I didn't have long hair and I wasn't a girl. So it was like really awkward, and the guy on the door, the security guard, wouldn't let me in because he didn't believe it was me. That was the only sort of ID I had.
So how were you able to get in?
Yeah, I went next door and got in that way. So, yeah.
I mean, but that's the reality, that a lot of people who are transgender obviously face many obstacles, not just, the acceptance, but there are certain things in society that, if you've registered for a certain health, private health, whatever, under one identity, and then you've assumed another identity, sometimes those kind of issues do come into play.
Yeah.
Well, all I could say is that I think that you're very brave to share your story.
Yeah.
You know, anyone who shares their story is brave, because, you know, you're putting yourself in a public space for people to scrutinize you.
Yeah.
I think that, you know, what you've been through is obviously not pleasant. And it's not something that, you know, it wasn't just a phase you were going through. I mean, you went through a difficult journey, and you were able to transition it at some point, which gave you some form of relief. And
Yeah.
what I'm happy about is the fact that you found your inner peace. You found your authentic self. You've pretty much accepted, you know, that you're now much more confident and happy with who you are. Nan gets to party with you more often, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And I think that it's wonderful that your family and your friends have been so accommodating and accepting of you. But of course, there are many people out there who are not that fortunate and are still going through a very difficult time. And I hear that your Nan is starting her webpage for nans of transgendered grandchildren.
We'll get around to it.
Yeah, she's going to have a YouTube page and everything. I love it. I love it. So thank you so much for giving up of your time and for sharing your story. And I just hope, and Tony and Jen for joining us, and Gavin from Nepal, and all the viewers who are watching. We had quite a few viewers from around the world who are watching it live. And of course, for those who are going to be watching it after the live broadcast, we thank you so much for sharing all of that with us. And we wish you all the best of luck. And then I will make sure that we are in contact. I'll share some nice links of interesting articles. Oh, do that again. We need to get a photograph of the suit. Oh, I love it. That was a good one. Thank you, Nan, for joining us. And please tell your mom, I know that you couldn't make it, but we thank her for the role that she's played in helping you in your process, in your journey.
Thank you for getting in touch anyway. Thank you.
You're welcome. So now I'm going to stop the broadcast.